You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
What a beautiful day for horses in the morning.
You are listening to the #1 horse podcast in the world. Here is your entertaining look at the horse world and the people in it.
This is Ashley Winch in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
And I'm Kat Gunther from White Lake, Michigan. You're listening to the Quarter Horse Podcast, brought to you by WERM Flooring for Tuesday, February 18th. Good morning, Horse World.
You're listening to the Quarter Horse Podcast, where we explore the versatility of the world's most popular breed of horse, the American Quarter Horse.
Good morning indeed. And today's topic I am so excited to explore, to learn about, because it's kind of mixing both of our worlds together. Kat, do you want to tell people what we're talking about today?
We're going to be talking about Western Dressage.
Something
which I'm very excited as well.
Yeah. It's something I've been really interested in as I have gotten older, looking for some less dangerous horse activities to do. And this just, it seems like the best of both worlds. And so what I thought we would start with was the history, because it is a relatively new discipline as far as horseback riding goes, right? Like some dressage moves go back to ancient Greece, but in a Western saddle, not so much. So I did a little bit of research. Nerd Ashley came out, and I was searching the internet, and it seems that it emerged actually as early as the 2000s, which, as far as sports go, make it brand new, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, for sure.
Do you remember hearing about it?
I remember a little bit of it because I started with my quote-unquote dressage.
Right.
Lest
when I was forget.
10. Yeah, where I got second place out of 2. But I remember I worked with a trainer that was talking about Western Dressage. And I thought it was interesting because they were doing very similar moves, but in the Western saddle, which I like because you can grab the horn.
Right. I still haven't.
You go south, you got that horn.
I love grabbing the horn, the you-know-what handle. But I still haven't been able to nail my seat. But that's a conversation for another day. So some of the early influences for Western dressage, just like you said, it actually came from Western trainers who realized how good dressage is for horses. Oftentimes we'll see schoolmasters or Olympic level horses are in their, late teens, which from a Western competition point of view is like ancient.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And
so
these trainers were like, wow, look at how sound these horses are. And dressage is just holistically wonderful for keeping a horse youthful. And so the Western Dressage Association of America was founded in 2010 in Colorado, and it has grown exponentially from then. I mean, I wouldn't even call Western dressage like rare anymore. I think it's pretty darn mainstream.
I think so. I think the Western classes in general, like even we talked about ranch riding in the past, are becoming more popular. So it's interesting to see them put this twist onto dressage, which I love. Like it's foundationally just connecting with the horse.
Absolutely. And it follows the same kind of training pyramid that dressage follows. It's progressive training with an emphasis on basics like relaxation, suppleness, balance, and forward movement. And as you said, the harmonious partnership between horse and rider are key to being successful in Western dressage. And then, what really I was curious about in preparation for this show is the differences between classical and Western dressage, because outside of the saddles, I wasn't really sure.
So my biggest question for our guests is, what different gaits and movements are they doing in a dressage saddle versus the Western saddle? Like, I'm not sure even of the fancy terms, where they go. Is it PtHA maybe?
Yes, that's exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Listeners, since this is an audio format, you can't see the beautiful reenactment that Kat was just doing, lifting her hands up as if she was.
Yeah, I'm interested to find out if they do that in the Western saddle.
What I'm curious about having ridden in both dressage and Western saddles is the feel, because so much of dressage, at least in my experience, is feeling that collection. And through the dressage saddle, you can really feel the horse. You know, there's not a whole lot. It's just a couple flaps between your legs and the horse's sides. Whereas to me, Western saddles are kind of clunkier. It's thicker leather. So I'm really interested to hear about how that difference is, you know, just the feel of it all.
That's a good point. I didn't even think of that, because those Western saddles are significantly different.
Lord knows heavier. I mean, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, that's another conversation. I need so much help. If a horse is over like 15.2, I cannot swing a saddle up. Not a Western
saddle. I had an appendix
saddle.
quarter horse, and he was 17.2.
Stop.
And I rode him in my training saddle, which was Western, and it was so hard to tack him up.
I was working a Mustang who was like 16.2, and I used a step stool to tack her up because I couldn't get up there.
No.
But so back to Western dressage, you know, some other differences other than some movement, some tack, training philosophies are a little bit different. Judging criteria, of course, is going to be different. Let's hear from our title sponsor, WERM Flooring, and then we'll get to our first guest, Auditor Samantha Reeves. WormFlooring.com now does trailer roofs. Leaky roofs are a common problem in horse trailers and RVs. WERM Flooring's revolutionary silicone-based coating creates a barrier against heat and wet. First, it seals your roof to stop leaks before they start. Second, it reflects back nearly 90% of those nasty UV rays, keeping your trailer or barn up to 60 degrees cooler on a blistering day. So ditch the duct tape and the buckets. Invest in long-lasting peace of mind with Seal and Chill. It's applied by pros for a flawless finish, and it's only $7.50 per square foot. That's a steal for cooler, drier, happier trailers or RVs, which of course means happier horses and people. Head on over to WERM Flooring, that's WERM flooring.com, to find a dealer near you. And joining us now is Auditor Sam Reeves, who was honestly the inspiration for today's episode. She had reached out when I was looking for auditors who had competed their quarter horses for eventing, which you'll recall was a couple months ago's topic. And she said, well, PtHA is retired from eventing, but she's just so great. She can't sit in the stall. So we started doing WDAA. I said, what on earth is WDAA? And Sam goes, well, Western Dressage, of course. And I said, okay, hold on, girlfriend. We're going to get you on the show. And here we are, the Western Dressage episode. So Sam, first of all, tell me how you and PtHA found each other.
Well, PtHA was my first horse. I didn't get into horses until I was in my early 20s. And I made the mistake that a lot of new horse people do, and I bought a horse from a trader. Did not know I had done this. So I wound up with a barely broke, nose to tail, only trail horse.
Oh, geez.
That was 8 years old, didn't know anything. And I didn't know anything.
You know what Glenn always says, green horse, green rider equals black and blue.
Oh, and it did. It did. Took many years, but as doing horses on a shoestring budget, my wife and I did all the work on our own. And we got PtHA to where she was a solid and civilized citizen. We had some help from a couple of trainers along the way. Lauren, if you're listening, Lauren Nethery, you have been instrumental. Thank you so much for everything you did for PtHA and I. But she competed in 3-day eventing through most of her career and did a lot of parades, expos. We've done Briarfest, the Kentucky Derby parade.
Wow.
Awesome. Briarfest? Oh, I remember going there when I was like, excuse me, like 10 years old. I was just obsessed.
Oh, it's a wonderful time. It's really, really awesome. But PtHA is now 23. And while she still could event, I don't feel it's fair to her to ask her to compete It's such a physically demanding sport at what is retirement age for a lot of horses.
So what did that transition look like from going from eventing to Western dressage?
Difficult at first because PtHA is very go, go, go. But with eventing, dressage was one of the phases, and WDAA's rules are very, very generous and welcoming. It was honestly very easy to make the change from English traditional dressage to Western dressage.
So what kind of moves, do you do the same moves in a traditional dressage pattern that you do in Western dressage?
To some extent, the basic levels, the introductory and the basic levels would look about the same. There is a little bit more focus on bending lines than there is in a equivalent English test. Excuse me. There is where you've got to come to the quarter line, change bend, and come back to the rail, for example, in one of the tests.
Okay. And I always wonder, this is it's not really off topic, but the clothes. I love show clothes. So can you wear sparkly jackets and have
yes,
silver on your saddles? Okay.
Yes. It is, so long as you are Western looking and professional with a collared long sleeved shirt, it really does not matter your attire. When you go to a rated WDAA show, you will see people with those amazing jackets that look like they must weigh 20 pounds. And then you'll see somebody in just a cotton shirt, and they're competing side by side. There is very little judgment as far as what you wear.
I love to hear that, because I think it's pretty well known, the dressage divas of the world. It's very strict, minimal bling. And let's be honest, even in my own experience doing rated dressage shows with my quarter horse, there's a bit of a snoot factor from time to time. So I love hearing that Western dressage is much more welcoming. What advice would you give someone who, let's say, historically has been an English rider and they're interested in getting their toes wet in the Western dressage world? What advice would you have for them?
Keep an open mind. The judges are looking for slightly different things. The harmony mark is one of the marks in Western dressage that I found to be particularly important and impactful. It is about, is the horse and rider together? Are they on the same page? Are they functioning well as a team? It's not so much about obedience per se as it is balance and cooperation. Balance as in the horse and rider team versus equitation sense of balance.
Right. How do the levels work? You said it's basically the same through maybe like first level dressage, would you say? After that, how advanced do the Western dressage movements get?
I can't answer that one exactly because I haven't gone beyond basic level in Western.
Super fair.
And there is talk in the community about making an advanced walk-jog division for horses and riders that are maybe physically unable to canter. There for maybe breeds that don't canter as well, such as standard breds or some of the other gaited breeds that are welcome. But still making the tests more interesting than straight lines, diagonal lines, and circles.
Wow. I was going to say the walk trot class, the advanced walk trot sounds amazing because I have a Gypsy Vanner right now. So I would love to try it. He just can't canter worth anything.
That.
Yeah. So what do you think it is about quarter horses that make them excel in Western dressage?
They're not fancy dressage horses like you would see in an English arena. They're willing, cooperative partners. They will do what you ask of them. And even if they don't understand it, they're going to try their best to make you happy. They may not do everything with panache and pizzazz and get 10s from an English judge, but if they try, you're going to get that harmony mark.
So do you see a lot of quarter horses? Like, do you compete against a lot of other quarter horse?
In my area, not so much, but I'm smack dab in the middle of Lexington, Kentucky.
Fair.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay.
But when I go into Ohio, where there is a large Western Dressage population, shout out to my friends in Ohio Western Dressage Association. Love you guys. There are a lot of quarter horses. There's a lot of Arabs. And you will see quarter horses, Arabs, Clydesdales.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
All eating side by side.
I love that. That's awesome. I'm going to be there with my gypsy.
Please do. We would love to have you. I'm happy to be your show buddy. And WDAA also very accessible with their virtual shows.
Oh, tell us more about that, please.
Oh, it's wonderful. Imagine being able to set your own time for your test. Have your test at home. No hauling out when it's 1,000,000 degrees outside.
Or 3 a.m. freezing.
3 a.m. and freezing rain. You set up your dressage court. Accuracy is recommended, but not everybody is going to have an exact 20 by 60.
Right.
Or 20 by 50, depending on what test you're riding. But just have it clearly marked. Your filmographer stands at C. Video your whole test. At the end, your filmographer comes out, circles around your horse and you. The rider dismounts, or if the rider is one of our physically challenged riders, they will drop the bridle, show the bit, and the video concludes. You submit it to the rated judges, and you will get your feedback and placement. And those are also can be rated shows, not just fun shows.
That is so cool. I remember during quarantine, like COVID times, there were virtual horse shows, and I loved it. So this is very exciting to me.
It makes the sport a lot more accessible because not everybody has got a show in their backyard.
Right.
I'm very fortunate to have the number of shows that I do in this area, but I recognize that not everyone has that opportunity. So I'm very, very glad that our quarter horse riders out in the middle of nowhere have the opportunity to still participate.
And how cool, to get the feedback from a judge. So even if, a lot of people don't get to train with their trainers every week or 2 times a week, sometimes it's once a month hauling in, So to have that accessibility to feedback is amazing.
Absolutely. And Pixie has, every time I take her into the ring, I feel that my marks reflect what I brought in. I have only had one judge that was really, really, really hard, but she was hard on everybody. So that's fair too.
I might try this. I'm excited. This online virtual showing thing, it just reminds me, like I said, of during quarantine when I did the open shows online. So that's awesome. But okay, so we ask all of our guests this last question. We would love to know a funny story about your favorite quarter horse, so Pixie, I'm assuming. Do you have like a funny moment when you were showing or just in general that sticks out?
Oh, yes. So I primarily compete side saddle. And our side saddle...
Can you stop blowing my mind today, please? Like,
That's wild.
I have such a equestrian crush on you. This is amazing.
ASA, the American Side Saddle Association, is also extremely welcoming.
I think that's our next episode of Side Saddle. That's so cool.
My mom, Maggie McAllister, is the president of the American Side Saddle Association, and she has ridden a Quarab extensively and in side saddle. She would be delighted to tell you anything you wanted to know.
That's amazing. I'm down. I'm excited.
But I have to say that our best, funniest moment was one of my first rated shows. It was a horse trial, full 3-day trial at the Kentucky Horse Park. And I was competing side saddle. I was the only side saddle competitor, of course. But coming into the stadium jumping phase, I was a little nervous. A lot of horses were spooking at a couple of fences, and I was nervous. So the one fence that concerned me the most, I rode a little too hot to the fence. And by a little too hot, I mean everybody on the rail about brought down the arena roof by gasping.
Oh my gosh, Sam.
And Pixie jumped it, popped me right out of the saddle. There's a picture with my butt very clearly 6 inches above the saddle, a horrible gritted teeth expression on my face. And the horse's eyes, Pixie's eyes are just wide going, "Oh crap, I dropped Mom." We landed. It was not a pretty landing, but we landed and we continued on. That won me for the year the Velcro Award.
Yes.
Which
As
is
it
the only
should.
gains by not achieving the Bottoms Up Award. The other great story is from that same horse trial. Pixie is a monster on cross country. She has never had a fault on cross country. And we were cruising up to a box jump. And the jump judge is on my right-hand side, so the off side, where there are no legs. And I'm in full approach, storming towards this fence. Pixie takes off, and as she takes off, I hear from the jump judge, "Oh shit!" Landing, and she says, "Oh my God, you're side saddle!" And I continue on, but I have never heard a jump judge lose their marbles on approach like that. To that
I'm still
jump
shocked.
judge,
I'm
you
shocked
were
you guys.
so sorry for you. I am sorry for scaring the bejeebers out of you.
I bet that judge remembers it to this day.
They do.
Oh man, Sam, I could listen to stories about you and Pixie all day. Thank you so much for inspiring this episode, for you and Pixie being such bad mama jammas out there representing the quarter horse breed as you do. Thanks for joining us today. And it sounds like we'll be having your mom on soon.
Heck yeah. Oh, I'm excited.
Thanks very much for having me. I appreciate this a lot. And I will make sure that I go and give Pixie some extra cookies when I get to the farm.
Please do. Thanks so much, Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The foundation of a horse's well-being is a strong hoof. That's why Calexiquin, the new daily hoof support supplement from the makers of Cosequin, contains key ingredients such as biotin, amino acids, copper, and zinc to support hoof integrity, quality growth, strength, and durability. What sets Calexiquin apart from other hoof supplements is the inclusion of vitamin E and selenium, which provide antioxidant support and membrane stabilization. Put your best hoof forward with Calexiquin. To learn more, visit Calexiquin.com. That's CALXEQUIN.com.
Chewy is your one-stop horse shop, from feed and supplements to supplies, medication, and more, delivered straight to your barn. With fast, free shipping on orders over $49 and the convenience of auto ship, you'll never have to worry about running out of the brands you trust and the products you need. You can count on Chewy to keep your barn stocked and your horses happy. Start shopping today at chewy.com-equine. So now we will be interviewing Amanda Delgado, owner of Olympus Equestrian and 12-time WDAA and PtHA world champion. Hi, Amanda. It's so nice to have you.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
No problem. So how did you get started in Western Dressage? You have a whole lot of accolades. I just love to know, where's the origin of this?
Yeah, so I actually got my start in like the paint and pinto circuits. And I went to the Pinto World Show one year and I was showing in the Hunter saddle and the ranch horse events. And I have a mare who is very big strided. I mean, she just has big, huge movement. And sometimes it wouldn't quite be rewarded in the Hunter saddle. They were looking, for something a little different, a little bit more of your pleasure type. And she was kind of more of a true hunter. And so at the time, I was getting a little frustrated with some of the placings and some of the classes, and I just felt like my mare wasn't quite appreciated. And to be completely honest, there were just some things that were happening at some of our local shows that I didn't quite agree with, as far as like animal welfare and, advocating for our horses. And I felt oftentimes, because I was a do-it-yourself amateur back then, I felt kind of a black sheep. I would look around at the shows and just be like, there's got to be a better way. And so I went to the Pinto World Show back in 2018, and they had English Week and Western Week. And it was the very first day of English Week, and I was getting ready to go into my ideal hunter saddle classes. And there were all these people in immaculate Western gear, like show attire, marching down to the dressage arenas. And I was like, what in the world? It's English Week. What are these people doing? And I was so bothered by it. I don't know. I was just so distracted by it. After the class, I handed my husband my horse and I said, I've got to go see what is going on. It is English Week. What are these people doing? And I marched down to the dressage arenas and I saw Western Dressage for the first time. And I was enamored by it. I just thought it was so beautiful. The horses going into the arena, they had so much softness and harmony. And it was so like I said, it gave me goosebumps. And I sat there and watched it, and I was like, I think my mare can do this. Like, this looks really cool. And, as a stock horse girl, I've always admired dressage. I've always thought it was beautiful. But, coming from a military family, I don't have the money for a $100,000 horse. And like dressage just felt so out of reach, I guess, and so intimidating. And so I saw Western Dressage and I was like, whoa, I really think we could do this. And so I came home to North Carolina, and at the time Western Dressage really wasn't a thing here. And so I Googled everything I possibly could and watched every YouTube video. I read every book I could and tried to just figure it out as much as I could myself. And and so in 2019, I actually started going to some dressage schooling shows. And I would usually be the only one there in my Western tack, but everyone was so kind and welcoming. They're like, yes, come show with us. And, I got my first test score back, and it was actually a good score in dressage, but it was a 68. And I started crying because I thought I got like a D+.
Oh no, Amanda!
Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, I failed. Like, this is terrible. And all the people there, they're like, no, honey, this is such a great score. And so there was I say all this, it's a huge learning curve. And, but I was hooked. I loved, there was no more second guessing of why did I not place better in that class. I had comments and a score with every single maneuver. And I loved the fact that with each score, it was why I got that score and how I could be better. And so, I really love critique. And so I was like, oh my gosh, homework. And so, we did some schooling shows here in North Carolina. And then we went back out to the 2019 Pinto World Show. And this was back when I was an amateur. And so we went, me and my mare, Athenian lady, we went and did the Western Dressage classes. And she got like a 79 in one of the classes. She had the highest dressage score of the entire event, junior, amateur, open, Western, traditional. And so I kind of stepped back and I was like, okay, I think she likes this. And it's really fun. And I think we've kind of found our groove. And so that was kind of how I first found Western Dressage. And then I was hooked. The show atmosphere is so different. The people are so different. It really was it was just such a breath of fresh air. I was like, wow, I finally felt like I finally had a home.
I love to hear that. And, the community being so welcome seems to be the theme of the show today. Our previous guest said the same thing, is just, it's so welcoming, which not every show atmosphere is that way, especially when you're coming in with a paint or a quarter horse, if you don't have the big $100,000, move along. And so that's just so cool. Yeah. I would love to know if you could explain to us maybe the differences in levels in Western dressage. I would love to understand that better.
Yeah, like the differences between like traditional dressage and Western, or just Western dressage in general, like what we're looking for in each level?
The latter.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So one of the most amazing things about Western dressage is very systemic. So, we don't expect our green horses or horses just beginning in training. We don't expect collection from them. We understand that to get our horses through the levels, it takes time. And it's just such a slow progression. And I love that. I think it's so friendly for our horses. It really, it's one thing to preach that you want sound, safe horses, but it's another to like really enforce it in what you're looking for as like a judge and organization. And so in the intro and basic levels, what we're really looking for is a soft, harmonious horse that has smooth, willing transitions. Typically, we're looking for a little bit more of a level top line. Obviously, if your horse is built different, because that's one of the big tenets of Western dressage, a lot of our judging is conformation based. So we know that our quarter horses are not going to go around like a warm blood. They're just physically incapable of it. And so we're not looking for a very uptight frame. We're looking for swing through the horse's back, lots of bend. So that's one of the big things that you'll see at the lower levels, especially as a judge or if you're scribing, needs more bend. And what we're talking about bend is bend through the entire body. So, through that rib cage, and, we want to see a little bit of flexion in the neck and in the pole. And we want to see them moving with a sense of purpose and energy. So think more of like your ranch classes, not so much more of like your pleasure, but we want to see them moving with a sense of purpose. And we want it to be very ground covering, but obviously not like explosion and out of control, fire breathing dragon. And so at the intro and basic levels, we're really just we're setting the foundation for the rest of it. So if you're watching it, you want it to seem very smooth, very cadenced. We want it to be kind of like on a metronome. At the intro and basic levels, we'll have some maneuvers such as like the free walk and the free jog, where we're looking for stretch and reach over the top line. And so we want to see a difference between their working gaits and then those stretching gaits. And so I hope that kind of answers those questions a little bit about what we're looking for.
Yeah, that it really does. And I just, it's so refreshing, quite frankly, that it's built in a way for success for both the rider and the horse. And I agree with you. My favorite part of tests is getting the homework to take home. It's just awesome.
It's different. It's different. Like a homework in school is not it. Horsey homework is it.
Yes. Yeah. It was so wonderful because, I would come back with my test and I'd go back to my coach. And even though I'm a professional, and that's another thing that's very different in the industry, in the dressage world, even professionals still have coaches. So I'll have a test and I'll take it back to my coach and said, okay, this maneuver said that I lost tempo in this maneuver or in this, getting them up, or he needs to prepare better. And then we get to work on it. And as long as I work on it and make it better, my scores improve. And so it's really cool.
And I love that even as a professional, you have a coach, because I think the best thing about equestrian, the equestrian world at large, is that we're never done learning. And to be able to have the space for professionals to get professional help too, I think is a beautiful testament to, again, just how much this organization, WDAA, wants everyone to succeed. It's just so refreshing.
Yeah,
it really
totally.
is.
And I think it just has this culture of that we're all still learning. And even though you're winning everything or at the height of your sport, like we're never done. And there's always something to be improve upon. And so I think it kind of helps keep you humble in a lot of ways too.
So how what would you suggest to somebody who's like, this sounds really cool. It sounds very fun. Where can I start?
Yeah. So the Western Dressage website has tons and tons of information. If you were to sign up and become a member today, you actually have access to their learning management system. It's called their LMS portal. And it is a wealth of information. So if you're in a state, kind of like North Carolina has grown in Western Dressage a lot compared to back when I started. But if you're in a state that doesn't necessarily have an affiliate or, doesn't really have a lot of shows, you can use the Western Dressage website and go through the learning management program and learn more about it and learn how to get involved. And even if your state doesn't necessarily have in-person shows for you to go to, like rated Western Dressage shows, you can always ask like your dressage GMO affiliates, hey, I'm really interested in Western Dressage. Could you guys offer these classes at your schooling shows? And most of the time, most of them will say yes, because at the end of the day, everyone wants to fill up those classes and make money. And then if you're blessed enough to have an affiliate in your area, definitely reach out and get involved. There's a huge influx of Western Dressage clinics and shows and trainers and coaches and judges here in the United States than there was a couple of years ago. And so chances are there's an affiliate nearby too.
What advice would you have for a Western rider who is looking to get involved? I feel like probably I feel this way because I have an English background. So it seems a bit more natural. But I do feel like it could be very daunting for a Western rider. So what would you say to the Western rider who's interested?
Yeah, come play with us because it's so much fun. It's so different from any other show experience that you have. So first off, like we have actual ride times, which is awesome. There's no more standing around and waiting 2 hours for your class or, rushing. You're given a ride time and they tell you exactly when you need to be there, which I like coming from the stock horse world. I loved that. Like that was awesome. So that was wonderful. Coming from the Western world, I would say that the people in WDAA, they're very much for the horse. And what I mean by that, you get to choose what bit goes in your horse's mouth, no matter what age. So if you have an aged horse that goes better in a snaffle or a Basel, you can do that in Western Dressage. And so you have a lot more flexibility to do what's best for your horse and what your horse prefers. If you like to ride them in a curb bit, at intro level, doesn't matter their age, you can totally do that too. You can ride one-handed or two-handed. It's whatever's best. You'll see more people riding two-handed. And so that was a weird concept for me, riding two-handed in a curb at a horse show. I thought that was really weird. And it kind of took a little bit of like learning more about the classical dressage principles to really like get my head around it.
Sure.
Yeah, so that was weird. But if you look at the upper levels of traditional, or classical dressage, their double bridles actually have a curb.
Right,
just like we do.
Totally.
Yeah. And so it's kind of those same principles. And so that was a little weird. I would tell like Western people, if you're going to write a test, ride forward. Like when in doubt, go forward.
I think that is such sound advice.
Yeah. I see, some of our, like, we've had some really talented ranch people or like cow horse people come over and they get a little pokey at times and their horse is such gorgeous movers. If they just push them out a little more forward, I mean, we don't want to be out of control. We want to show a difference between like our working gaits and our lengthenings, but push your horse forward. That would be huge. And then I think the big thing too, really read the directives of your test. So in every Western Dressage test, they have a directives box at the top of what the judge is looking for. They'll tell you, and then with each maneuver, they'll have like what it is. So it'll be like, enter in A, working jog, halt at X, salute. And then the next box, they'll actually tell you exactly what they're looking for in judging at that level for that maneuver, which is so cool. Anything else outside of that box, it doesn't matter.
I love that.
It's totally fine. Yeah,
That's
it's really
amazing.
Cool. Yeah. And so they'll tell you what you're judging, and then they'll get like a little score, and then your comment. If you really study your test, it takes a lot of the guesswork out of things.
Right. And it sounds too that the judges then especially versus, let's say, breed shows like AQHA or APHA, they can't really take in the breeding or your trainer or blah, blah, blah baloney into account. It's truly on you and your horse, which is how it should be. Let's all be honest.
Absolutely.
That's how it should be, because I come from that all-around quarter horse showing background. I loved it, but there was a lot of political, there's a lot of that in there.
Yes.
So this seems very welcoming and inclusive.
Yeah, it really is. Like, no one cares about who your coach is or what kind of rig you pulled your horse off. Like, it doesn't matter if you're in used tack. It doesn't matter if you're in a Harris saddle or a Circle Y. Like, you're welcome there. And like, as long as you and your horse are harmonious and soft and kind, we will welcome you with open arms.
It's just, I love it. This is such a wonderful way to start the day with like everybody getting along and kumbaya. Yeah. It's so refreshing. So, Amanda, we ask everybody the same last question, and no pressure. We would love to hear a funny story about your favorite quarter horse from either a barn habit or something funny that happened at a show. Just a funny quarter horse story.
Yeah, I've got my favorite. So my mare Athena, she's a quarter horse. I don't have her papers right now because she's a rescue, but we DNA'd her and she is in fact a quarter horse. And so it was actually my very first dressage test, like, ever.
Oh my gosh.
And so, I had like one of those head stalls with the conchos, and it had silver, and the thin, very much pleasure type head stall with the thin silver, ear band. And it's my very first dressage test. So I go up to the judge and I tell her, I'm really nervous. I don't know what I'm doing. And she's like, oh, honey, it's fine. I'm going to ring this little bell. When you hear the bell, you've got 45 seconds to come into the arena. You'll come up center line and do your test. And I was like, that's great. Okay, too easy. So, I start jogging around the arena and I'm feeling confident. And I come up center line. My horse, her entire body finally gets into the arena and she slams the brakes on. I mean, throws the brakes down, throws her head up and becomes a llama. And I'm sitting there like, what is she doing? And then all of a sudden she just goes, Puh, and spits the bit out of her mouth. And so I'm just standing there like completely flabbergasted. I didn't know what to do. And I'm just like, I was frozen. I was mortified. And the judge sticks her head out of the box. She said, honey, I'm so sorry. I've got to eliminate you. And she's like, but get off your horse, go fix your head stall. And if you come back, I'll still judge the test for you. It just won't count for placing. So I did. I ran back and my conchos had fallen out. And so, I fixed it, tightened it, and came back. But I was mortified. That was my very first dressage test of all time, and we got eliminated.
Oh, man.
She was such a saint. She was so confused. She just held the bit in her mouth for a few seconds and then just spit it out.
She's like, this is not right. I don't know what
right.
It was so cute. And, it was hilarious because you could see, she was the only quarter horse at this show. Everyone else has these, high-strung warm bloods and they're kites on the ground, and you're just seeing chaos everywhere. And then there's my mare. She spits the bit out and just stands quietly looking around. And it's such a contrast. Because I think everyone thought the horse would take off and bolt and be gone, with no brakes. But she was just standing there as quiet as could be. And then I didn't even get off her, because in the quarter horse world, we can ride our horses bridleless.
Totally.
And so I just kind of pivoted her around and walked out without a bridle. And everyone's sitting there like,
this person's crazy. Yeah.
Yes. Their faces were just dropped. And then finally a steward walks over and she's like, honey, we'd feel a lot more comfortable if you got off her.
That's the beauty of a quarter horse, though. They're so just chill compared to those high-strung warm bloods. They're just like, okay, the bit's gone. No problem.
Right?
Okay. Yes.
Oh, man. It would have been great if you just did the whole test bridleless and just put on a show.
Right? Yeah, I think we definitely could, but in the moment,
I'm sure.
I was
yeah.
mortified. So now, if my clients have a head stall with conchos, we keep like screwdrivers and
Yep.
super glue, and every time they go in the arena, we check conchos.
I bet, that's sometimes the best way to learn a lesson, and I'm sure it'll never happen again.
Yeah, but it's just proof. If you have a rough test, don't let it discourage you, because my mare now, she's got, I think after this last world show, I think we're up to 13 world titles in it.
Oh my gosh,
So-
Amanda, that's amazing.
Thanks. No, but it doesn't define
Totally.
how you're going to be.
Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh, we love that. Amanda,
Yeah.
thanks so much for joining us today. You're such a pleasure, so educational. We're really
you.
excited to spread the word about Western Dressage. I know Kat is already looking up tests to do with her Gypsy Vanner. So
Heck yeah. Heck yeah,
please.
that sounds so fun.
It's so awesome. And if you're so new to dressage, it's such a friendly sport. Like, we allow people to call tests at every level, even at the world show. So if
you don't have to memorize it, stop.
No,
Kat,
not even at the world show.
this is what you've been waiting for.
This is for me. I can do walk trot. I can be told where to go. I love that. People are nice to me.
Yeah, well,
That's perfect.
it's so great because, like, if you're, I know some people that are like, my horse loves patterns, but I cannot memorize it. And so we're like, that's stupid. We shouldn't penalize someone that they forgot a pattern if their horse can do it. So even all the way up to the top levels of the sport, even at level 5, you're allowed to have a caller call your test.
Amazing.
Which I think is amazing.
Yeah.
You can start out your horse at walk trot. It doesn't matter what age your horse is or how old you are or how many points you have. You can start at an intro and do walk jog. So it's such a friendly sport.
Well, you might catch me out there because I love walk trot. It's easy. I used to compete the all around stuff, 14 to 18, real hardcore. Now I'm just like, I want to walk trot. I want to be told where to go.
She wants to wear the cute outfits.
I want to wear a cute outfit. I just want to,
Well, and that's the other great thing about Western Dressage. Like, you can get all blinged out from head to toe. Like, think very much AQHA, horsemanship, or pleasure style, silver saddles. You could totally do that. Or you can go a ranch look and, do very much like a very plain working attire. You'll see people out there with like their Arabians or their Morgans and like a vaquero, like they're very flat brimmed.
Yeah.
It's wild. And then even at the World Show, you'll see people in just like a helmet, a collared shirt, and jeans. And like plain show pad. And that's totally acceptable. So whatever makes you feel confident and you and your horse, do it.
That sounds awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Amanda. It's been great.
Thanks for having me.
Confidently address your horse's unique weight needs and help optimize their overall well-being with research-proven Purina animal nutrition feeds designed by passionate equine nutritionists. Partner with Purina to nourish your horse to their optimal body condition. Explore weight management resources for your horse today at purinamills.com/feed-finder.
Thanks so much for tuning into the Quarter Horse podcast on Horses in the Morning. Be sure to like, subscribe, and tell all your friends about the world's favorite breed of horse.